We're really thrilled to have Jesse Eisenberg with us this evening. You know, over the past decade or decade and a half, Jesse has amassed quite a few film credits across a range of genres, from comedy to drama, from action to horror, and he's even done some animated movies. Already he's gotten one Academy Award nomination for his portrayal of Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network, and look for him soon as Superman's arch enemy, Lex Luthor Jr., in the upcoming Batman versus Superman production. All this, and Jesse turned only 32 last month. And that's not all. He's gained increasing acclaim for his literary voice as the author so far of 3 plays, and as a popular contributor to The New Yorker and McSweeney's. Now he's out with his first novel, Bream Gives Me Hiccups and Other Stories. It's really a collection of pieces, some of which have appeared in The New Yorker and McSweeney's. Pieces that showcase his wit, intelligence, imagination, and keen reflections on a number of life's absurdities. In the book, Jesse muses on such topics as family, dating, history, sports, and self-help, and employs a variety of styles, from longer passages that follow a narrative arc to brief punchline bits. Here and there, a piece even has the feel of a stand-up routine, and Jesse has actually performed some of these. A review of the book in Publishers Weekly noted that Jesse is frequently compared to Woody Allen, with whom Jesse has worked. Indeed, the two share an affinity for neurotic, difficult characters. But another one newspaper reviewer observed that Jesse's stories may have more in common with Steve Martin. Quote, in the way they often subvert comic convention, and more significantly, in how the author empathizes with his characters. However natural it might be to compare Jesse to some of the great comic artists, it's becoming quite clear that he is emerging as an original. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Jesse Eisenberg.
Hi. Hi, thanks. Thank you so much, Brad. That was very sweet. Thank you for reading the introduction I wrote for you. And thank you so much for coming here. I will apologize first, just because that's how I like to enter a room, but also because my voice clearly is, through no fault of my own, disappeared. And when I say no fault of my own, I haven't had any fun to warrant this. It's not like I went out drinking or got a stripper. I just woke up and it was like this. And that seems to be emblematic of everything that happens to me. Like, anytime first of all, I never do anything fun for fear of something like this happening, because I feel if I do something fun, then I'll be punished for it. But then I'm punished anyway, and then in retrospect, I think, well, I could have done something fun. So it's a wash. I prepared an opening speech thanking everybody for coming here and the general welcoming remarks. But I just thought it would be so taxing on my voice, so I was wondering if you wouldn't mind if my little sister Hallie can read my opening remarks. She is she's a wonderful person. She just graduated from American University, so I thought, just almost just by virtue of her accent, you guys will kind of feel more comfortable. She's been rolling her R's since she went to school there, so I thought if she could read my opening remarks, and then maybe she could read, and then I could do question and answers, or I'll just do answers, you could do the questions. Or if I'm feeling inquisitive, maybe I'll ask something. But so Hallie, would you mind coming up here, and she could read my welcoming remarks? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, sorry. Okay, I wrote this earlier.
Okay.
I was going to read it, but I'm not.
Is it just this?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Oh, there are a lot of you. Okay, so from Jesse. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. First, I'd like to thank Politics and Prose and Lissa and Brad for having me here. I've heard so many great, wonderful things about this bookstore. In fact, my sister Hallie went to American University. So I'm very familiar with this area, and I really love this city. Hallie and I have spent so much time in D.C. together. Our favorite thing to do was walk down Massachusetts Avenue and look at all of the varied and interesting embassies, and it was such a treat to be able to visit. That's nice. Thanks. Yeah. Actually, if I'm being honest, I kind of tried to avoid coming down to visit her, okay? Because she lived in a house with 5 boys, and there were stains literally moving around the bathroom. Valid somewhat. And Hallie's room, allegedly the clean one, it was, looked like what happens to the cities at the end of the Transformer movies. You had to literally step over garbage just to find a nice piece of garbage to sit on. Okay. Really?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Okay.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Sure. Okay. But when I did come, I would love to walk around the nation's capital. You can not only feel the history here, but in a way, the future. This is the place where George Washington set up the United States government, where Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, and hopefully this will be the place where the first female president will take her oath of office. And most likely, the first female president will not be my sister, Hallie. Okay. She took 1 political science class at American, and although she'll deny this, paid a kid to do her homework and still struggled to a 3.2 GPA. Really?
It's another page.
Okay. That's great. Okay. And I'm so sorry that I can't speak tonight. This is such an unfortunate situation. I've been on a book tour for the last few weeks, and I think between the constant flying from city to city and so much public speaking, I came down with bronchitis. I started taking medicine first thing this morning, finding a doctor in Boston, but I'm still struggling to find my voice. And it's doubly tragic because my voice is silky and mellifluous. It sounds at once melodious and authoritative, like you're hearing the best song and the best advice at the same time, if that's possible. A family friend and a family. And for the first time, you could have experienced real inner peace. My sister Hallie's voice, on the other hand, is grating and sounds somehow permanently accusatory. It's as if you're being yelled at and complained to at the same time, if that's possible. An annoying intern and a disgruntled boss all rolled into one person. It's as if a curse is somehow entering your ears via the timbre of her pipes, and it'll only leave if Jesse's voice somehow miraculously returns, and he fixes not only this night and this hallowed event, but the world at large. Great. 1,000 apologies for this horrid turn of events. Nonetheless, I will be signing books and taking pictures, and I am so indebted to my wonderful sister, there we go, who suggested I come to this historic store in this most historic city. Thank you for coming.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hallie, for reading that. I just, excuse me, I just wrote that this morning when before I realized I'll lose my voice. So I thought I would do a reading, but I was doing a reading backstage, and it's just, there's nothing funny about this. Well, there's something inherently funny about this, but the combination of this and my intended funny remarks cancel each other out. It's like a hat on a hat. So I thought if Hallie, if you wouldn't mind, since that went so well, she's funnier than me. So I thought, maybe she could read 2 short stories, and then I could do the question and answer. I can assure you she'll be funnier than me, and it's more interesting to see her than me in my condition. In almost any other condition, more interesting to see me. So would you mind coming up here?
I don't know.
Yeah. It's good. Banter. I thought she could just read 2 of the title stories. The title is Bream Gives Me Hiccups. The stories are about this 9-year-old boy whose parents just got divorced, and the only way his mother can maintain her nice lifestyle after the divorce is to take her son around to these restaurants because the father has agreed to pay for whatever she does with the child. So the boy writes a series of restaurant reviews where he's not only evaluating the restaurant, but kind of his relationship with his mother. And I thought the first one that she could read is called Thanksgiving with Vegans, which is where he goes to a Thanksgiving dinner at a vegan family's house. I thought we could read that because Hallie's a vegan, and also and they're funny. And And it's about to be Thanksgiving, and I thought, if you were looking forward to having your Thanksgiving, this might fix that. So, okay, could you read this? Again, this is from the perspective of a 9-year-old boy, but she's going to use her own voice.
Okay. Last night.
Read the title.
Okay. Thanksgiving with vegans. Last night, Mom and I went to Thanksgiving dinner at a vegan family's house, which is kind of like going to temple for Christmas. Mom said that vegans are people who don't eat any meat or cheese or shave. And since Mom doesn't like to cook, she decided that we need to go to our neighbor's house for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving used to be my favorite holiday because Mom and Dad and I would drive up to Dad's parents' house, and Dad and I would roll down the humongous hill in Grandpa's backyard while Grandma cooked with Mom. But when Dad left Mom to be in love with another woman, Mom told me that I was never allowed to speak to Dad's parents again, which I thought was unfair because they were my grandparents and we have a separate relationship. I also used to love Thanksgiving because of the food. Grandma would make a huge turkey with gravy and stuffing, and everyone would make a big deal about Grandpa's carving the turkey like he had a special skill that the rest of us could never learn. But our neighbors, the vegans, don't eat turkey or real gravy, and they don't put marshmallows on top of their sweet potatoes because they said that marshmallows come from horse feet, which I didn't know and I hope is a lie. Not only do they not eat turkeys, but the vegans placed framed pictures of 2 turkeys on their Thanksgiving table with the turkeys' names underneath, which were Mabel and Todd. It was strange to see pictures of turkeys because no one really ever takes pictures of turkeys. And it was even stranger to see that they had names because no one really names turkeys, especially with a name like Todd, which sounds like the name of a boy who asks the teacher for more homework. All of the foods were labeled with little turkey-shaped signs, and I remembered the names carefully so that I know to avoid them in future Thanksgivings. The main foods were lentil and mushroom loaf with savory potato filling and stuffed maple tofu, and the side foods were gluten-free spinach roasted fingerlings and king oyster whipped sweet potatoes with herbs and without marshmallows. Reading the weird names of the foods, I suddenly missed Dad, and I thought maybe Mom did too, even though she always says that she hates him. I think that even if you hate someone, it's easy to miss them on the holidays. Before we were allowed to eat, we had to go around the room and say what we were thankful for. At Grandma and Grandpa's house, we would do the same thing, but more as a joke. It would always be funny and sarcastic. Like Grandpa would say, "I'm thankful Grandma didn't burn the turkey like last year." And Grandma would say to Grandpa, "I'm thankful that you lost your teeth so you'll only be able to eat the sweet potatoes." But the vegans said things that were sincere, like family and togetherness, and Mom rolled her eyes at me and I rolled mine back at her, and it made me feel good. I like it when Mom rolls her eyes with me because it's like having a silent secret with someone. The vegan mom said she was thankful for her enlightened consciousness, and that it was important to keep turkeys like Todd and Mabel in our hearts on this dark holiday. She said that turkeys are beautiful and brilliant creatures who like music and dancing, which seemed kind of strange and probably not true. But then she described how the turkeys are killed, and it made me feel really guilty and also nauseous. Before the turkeys are killed, she said, they are packed into tiny cages where they can't even turn around. And in order to make sure that the turkeys don't attack each other, they get their beaks and toes cut off with hot blades and then are boiled alive to get their feathers off. I pictured myself in a tight cage, not being able to turn around, and then getting my toes cut off and being boiled alive. Picturing yourself in someone else's life is called empathy, which Mom says I have too much of. I thought it was strange that the vegan mom described how turkeys were killed to a group of people who were about to eat tofu. It kind of felt like she was trying to sell me the shirt I was already wearing. I don't totally think the vegan people are so weird. In a way, it is more weird to eat a bird. We would all think it was disgusting to go outside and kill a bird and tear its head off and then stuff its body with croutons and celery and put it in an oven, but for some reason we think it's normal to go to a supermarket and buy a turkey and cook it. I guess I'm being hypocritical by eating turkeys, and I don't really know what to think about this. I think it's really sad the way that animals are killed, but it's also really sad that I used to have Thanksgiving with my grandparents, and now I'm not allowed to talk to them because Dad loves someone else. I guess that there are a lot of sad things in the world, and sometimes eating turkey with the people you love makes you happy. And maybe it would make the turkey happy to know that this was happening with its body. Probably not, but maybe. If the turkey really liked music and dancing, maybe it would also like to know that I was rolling down Grandpa's hill with Dad and then eating its body. Probably not, but maybe. Maybe some things are too difficult for me to understand right now. Probably not, but maybe. That's why I'm giving the Vegan Thanksgiving 1,000 out of 2,000 stars.
That was Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much. She made most of that up, so I was surprised, but thank you so much. I thought most of it was good. Thank you so much. I thought maybe she could just read one more. I'm so sorry about this. I could hand out gifts or something, but I'm not going to. So I thought she could read one more. Just trying to think of what would be funniest. Okay, so this one, do you mind? This is, they go to an Iraqi restaurant called Maskoof. Okay, thanks.
Last night, Mom took me to a new restaurant called Maskoof. Mom said that it was an Iraqi restaurant and that we had to go because we are open-minded people and we should support it. I thought it was weird, though, because Matt's brother is in the army in the real Iraq, and their car says support the troops. So it kind of felt like we were supporting the restaurant instead of Matt's brother. Mom said that all the women in her book club already went to the restaurant, but I didn't know why that meant that we had to go to the restaurant, too. And I don't know why Mom is even in the book club, because she doesn't read any of the books. And on the nights before the book club meetings in our house, she says fuck a lot and asks me to look on Wikipedia. Then I have to read the plot synopsis and major characters to her while she vacuums, which is hard because the vacuum is really loud, and I have to follow her around the house holding my computer and reading. The first weird thing I noticed when I walked into Maskoof is that a lot of the people eating there were wearing big black face masks so you can only see their eyes. Mom said to me kind of disappointedly that she was hoping there would be more people who look like us. But I said that we don't know what those people look like because they're hiding in the masks. Then Mom elbowed me in the neck, which is what she does when I say things that are either too loud or too quiet or if I'm laughing. When Mom looked at the menu, she said, kind of quietly under her breath, "Figures, it's fucking dry." I'm not sure what she meant by that, but I think it has something to do with alcohol, because whenever Mom opens a menu, the first thing she does is look at the alcohol and breathe a sigh of relief. Mom said that she would order for both of us, and that we should share, which she usually says when she doesn't think the food will be good. When the woman came over to take the order, Mom looked at her like she was kind of a homeless person and said, "And where are you from?" When the woman said Iraq, Mom said, "Oh, beautiful, what city?" Then the woman said Baghdad, and Mom said, "Aw," as though the woman was crying. But the woman wasn't crying, she was smiling. So I looked up at the woman, and I smiled very big to show her that I was not always on Mom's side. But when the woman saw me smiling, she made a weird face, like I was making fun of her, which I wasn't. Then Mom kicked me under the table, and my leg hurt for the rest of the night and a little bit into the next morning, which is today. The first thing the woman brought us was a weird pile of rice on a plate and a big bowl of soupy-looking eggplant in a red sauce. I could tell Mom got a little nauseous by it, but she smiled at the woman and said, "Wow, traditional, can't wait to dig in." But I could tell Mom was lying, because when the woman walked away, Mom took a little bite of it just with the front of her teeth, and then flared her nostrils like she wanted to puke right there at the table. Then she said, "Sweetie, I think you'll like this. Why don't you try it?" So I knew she must have not liked it. Then Mom poured the eggplant stuff onto the rice and kind of moved it around the plate to make it look like we had eaten it. Then the woman brought us the other dish, which was a chicken shish kebab with French fries. The French fries tasted just like French fries, even though they didn't have ketchup, and the chicken shish kebab just tasted like regular chicken. When Mom and I tasted how normal it was, we looked at each other in a relieved way, like we were Matt's brother and we had just come home from Iraq. On the way home, Mom called all the women in her book club to tell them that we went to Maskoof. She lied the whole time, telling them how nice it was to spend some alone time with me and how interesting it was to see all the Iraq people in their black face masks, and that she didn't even think about Dad's new girlfriend one time during the fun and tasty dinner. When Mom lies, she doesn't just say the things she doesn't mean. She says the opposite of the things she does mean. And probably most children would be angry at their moms for lying so much, but for some reason, it just makes me feel sad for her. When we got home, I read Mom the plot synopsis for Wuthering Heights, while she vacuumed in her underwear. Then Mom said her stomach kind of hurt, and I thought that mine did too. So Mom and I both went to separate bathrooms and didn't come out for a long time. That's why I'm giving Maskoof 129 out of 2,000 stars.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Okay, goodness gracious. Thank you so much. It'll come. It's annoying now, but then it'll. Okay. Thank you so much for doing that. She's now going to do a piece from War and Peace. Now, I didn't write that book, but we hear it's good. And she's going to do a third of it. I just keep throwing things on you. I'm feeling fine, so don't worry about me. I can imagine that you're all feeling concerned. That's okay to feel that way, but it's unwarranted. I'm feeling no pain. But it's probably grating on your ears because, because I've heard people say that to me before. But if you want to do like a question and answer, I could do it. And I'm sorry that I sound this way, but I can't sound any other ways right now. But I'm fine, so just, get over it. If there's anybody who wants to ask a question, then it's you. Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm having trouble with my voice too. So.
Thank you so much. Good. Thank you very much. Do you have a sister you can ask?
I thought The Social Network was a brilliant movie.
Oh, thanks.
But at the end, this woman says, uncertainly, Mark Zuckerberg character, I don't think you're an asshole.
Right.
And so it seems like the cultural impact of these little sound bites in movies, like, remember Nixon saying, I am not a crook.
Right.
And Mark Zuckerberg thinking, well, I am not an asshole, you know. We go around things. What actors are often more sympathetic to the characters they play than the general moviegoer. What is your take on him? Do you think he was fairly presented or not?
I don't know. I imagine that any kind of dramatic representation of a real person will ultimately seem unfair to the person who is being portrayed. Just by virtue of dramatizing a real person reduces them to a character, even if the character's brilliantly drawn. So I imagine it's uncomfortable. But to your point, I think movies are Brad can speak to this better than I can, but it seems to me movies are like the best propaganda you can create. And so if you make a movie about a real person, even a person who is the president of the United States like Nixon, or the founder and CEO of the biggest company in the world, the movie in some way will have more of an influence on the public consciousness about that person and their traits than the real person. That makes me feel bad because I feel like, well, then I'm part of something that in a way puts somebody in an uncomfortable position. My goal is to not get famous enough where anybody's going to make a movie about me. So I was going to write a much better book, but I thought that would put me in a weird position. It's also why I didn't win the Academy Award that year. I thought, that's the kind of thing they'll make a movie about, so I'll come in second. So yeah, thanks a lot. Hi.
Thank you for coming. I just wanted to ask you a question overall about your experiences in the industry. What are the best parts of it from your experience and the worst parts of it?
Well, the best parts you probably know about. They're on bless you. They're on like about the entertainment industry generally. Well, even the most successful people are freelance. That's the most difficult part, except if you work at a movie studio, in which case you're in a revolving door of a job, because there's a high turnover rate. As an actor, you have these wonderful opportunity to have cathartic experiences in safe environments. I walk through the world every day, somewhere in a state between rage and weeping, and it's inappropriate to live that way because you go to like a Starbucks and they won't serve you, but when you're in a movie, it's not only possible, but it's encouraged to express your emotions. That's my favorite part about it, is that I can have real cathartic experiences in a safe context. The downside is you feel that rage and sadness because you're going to be unemployed every 2 months. So for me, it's been important to find other things to do. A lot of actors do really wonderful things. They work with charitable organizations to fill their time. Other actors turn to alcohol and drugs. That's why you're here, because you have a lot of time on your hands and you're a creative, interesting person, but no one's asking you to work. That can be troubling.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, huge fan.
Thanks a lot.
So I have 2 questions. One, I recently saw The Double and was amazed by the whole movie and your performance especially. So I was wondering what your experience was like playing 2 different people in the same movie.
Yeah.
And the second question is, I haven't seen End of the Tour yet because I'm currently reading Infinite Jest. So I was wondering.
We're not going to see it for another 6 months then.
Yeah, I've been reading it for like 6 months, and I've just got to the halfway point. I'm really
God.
excited.
Congratulations.
And I was wondering if you could talk about. Your relationship with the book and David Foster Wallace.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, insofar as playing two characters, it was fun because there was such a great momentum. The movie is about a doppelganger, so I played one character and his doppelganger, and it was great because in addition to my previous answer to the gentleman before you, we don't know if he's gentle, but he seemed it. Is that you know, it's difficult to act when a lot of times you're waiting in a movie trailer. I mean, this sounds like lamenting, you know, a luxury problem, but one of the difficulties I find acting in like a bigger movie sometimes is that, you know, you're waiting around to do a scene that's ultimately very emotional, and so you kind of lose the momentum. But in a movie where you're playing both characters, I never lost that, so it was exhilarating. In terms of the End of the Tour and liking David Foster Wallace, I've loved David Foster Wallace since I was in college. Which was before he passed away. So, you know, you thought, oh, this guy's going to be producing stuff like this for, you know, 50 years or whatever. And it was so shocking when he died. And then it was really exciting to be able to kind of re-engage with his work and him personally, because he's a really special guy. He's not just a great writer, he's a special mind, especially because he thought a lot about the kind of perils of a public life as he embarked on not just being a writer who sits in a room and writes, you know, long books, but a person who has to go publicize them and who has some kind of international notoriety. So it was really interesting to not only engage with his work again, but him personally.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Oh, hi. So sorry.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot.
I was wondering what was your, like, you know, on a day-to-day basis while you were writing this book, what were like the circumstances of like the creativity? Did you have like a particular thought process or routine that you went through to get in the mindset of your character? And like what did a typical day writing the book look like?
I sit on a kind of like a gold throne. I don't know why that's funny. And a kind of enigmatic mistress will peel grapes. She'll slowly reveal the grape and herself as the day progresses, revealing fruits. Well, you know, actually, I started writing this character a few years ago when I was actually filming that movie, The Double, because my character in that movie was a kind of stunted man. He was like an emotional child. And so on the weekends, I would write from the perspective of this 9-year-old boy. But I was, because I was kind of, that mindset was imposed upon me by a movie and a character. So that was like a great luxury to have, you know, somebody saying, hey, think in this character for a few months. And then I was also playing his doppelganger, who's this brash, kind of cold-hearted guy, and that kind of, I guess, unconsciously probably worked its way into being the mother character that you read, who's kind of always jabbing the kid, you know, but the kid stays with the mom, in the same way the doppelganger kind of, you know, obsequiously follows the you know, the brash guy. So I was in that mindset of like the 9-year-old boy, and for some reason, probably most of them unhealthy, I can get into that mindset easily. I don't know why. I guess I mean, probably like a lot of writers, probably like most people, you feel alienated a lot, and you feel, you feel like sometimes you're watching the world go by from a bubble, and so especially if you had my mother, and so I feel like I can relate to that experience.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming here. Yeah. Oh, hi. You will go back.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. My question kind of follows on that about the book and your process. I was kind of disappointed when I learned your sister was going to read, and you didn't have her read one of Harper Jablonski's letters.
Yeah.
And
That's funny.
So my question is, did you have female advice in creating that character, or did it all come out of you?
I have a team of enigmatic mistresses, and one of each age up until 100, and I asked them questions. I said, bring in number 17. I'm writing something about a 17-year-old. No, I grew up, yeah, I know. I grew up with two sisters and a mother and a father who has, kind of a little light in the loafers occasionally. So I The problem was with the shoes, actually. We had to buy him new loafers. What happened is he had worn them while playing tennis, and they had worn through. So I can understand the female experience well because, well, this sounds like a Borscht Belt line, because I was waiting for the bathroom. That sounds like a joke that if I heard it, I would leave. No, so I grew up with those voices. A lot of times, so Woody Allen writes, he's notorious for not notorious, he's lauded for writing great female characters, and a lot of times I think that's because a lot women, and it's probably just the kind of social construct, are more forthcoming with emotions. That's just something we accept more easily from women, and I mean, not that that's a good thing, but. I think men should be, if more men were more forthcoming with their emotions, I would be normal. And so, it's sometimes easier to write for women when you're writing characters that are histrionic, just because we're used to reading characters like that. I'm not promoting that. I think that's bad. I'm only perpetuating a horrible trend, not starting it. So I think that's partly why. And also, if you're writing satire, maybe it can be helpful if you're commenting on things that people already think. But the character, that is the 18-year-old girl that you're referring to. I kind of did a horrible exaggeration of my sister experiencing just the anxiety transitioning into college life. So that's where that character came from. Yeah.
Great.
I think women are better than men. Hi.
Hey, Jesse, thanks for
This
coming.
is why I can't run for president. Otherwise.
So my question for you is, in any work that you've done, what's been your biggest aha moment where you overcome an obstacle and you were just like, I've got it?
I think I never had that, but you have little ones where you know what, I have that sometimes when I think I probably have a tendency to shut myself off from a lot of things. I stopped watching movies and television because I became so self-conscious that I would see through the artifice of it, and then I would be too self-conscious to act in a movie. And so I stopped watching things. I stopped, frankly, reading things that are maybe similar to mine. And I think by sheltering myself so much, I have lost perspective of where I fit into the world. And it's not. I know it's not good for me to do that. So I have occasionally little aha moments when I open my window for a little bit, and I see that. Oh no, I think I'm okay here, or I think I fit in. Not that I'm better or worse, but I'm of the, I'll read pieces that my friends write who are successful authors, and I think, oh right, my pieces can stand up to that. Or I don't watch myself in movies because I'm too worried that I'm not going to think I did a good job or something, or it's going to make me nervous or something. And then occasionally I'll see a movie preview or something, and I feel like, okay, that's okay. I never feel that great, but I have that in terms of an aha moment. I have, okay, I'm okay. I can fit into the world a little bit, and I hope as I do more, I become a little more comfortable with engaging in stuff that I've done. Thanks a lot for asking that.
Thank you.
Hey Jesse, I wanted to. Can you hear me? I wanted to ask you about your writing process.
Okay.
When you're writing, for example, you're writing a play or this collection of short stories, or a short story.
Yeah.
Do you write from beginning to end and then you edit later, or do you suffer from anxiety in the middle of writing it, and then just there's something wrong with this, and then just rewrite it until you're satisfied?
I usually I begin with a base level anxiety that then carries through the process. Occasionally peaking. With plays and with that character like that Hallie just read, I let those characters kind of take over, which is, I guess, a pretentious way of saying you hope your unconscious mind takes over. You set out to write something, and when you set out to do something, you're thinking with your kind of analytical brain. It would be interesting to see a 9-year-old boy and his mom go to restaurants, and then you hope that the analytical brain kind of recedes a bit, and the unconscious part of your brain takes over, which is the artful part, which says, oh, actually it'd be interesting if they really love each other, but they just can't see eye to eye, and those characters seem to take on a life of their own. Certainly when I write my plays, I never know how they're going to end. When I have done it the other way and kind of reverse engineered to lead toward an ending, it feels false, because I'm not presenting people accurately. People are irrational, emotional beings that are driven by id and forces that they probably would not be able to articulate. And so if you're going to accurately represent characters, they probably should not be written, at least in my case, it should not be written with that kind of very analytical part of the mind. Similarly with acting, I think of acting as a very visceral experience. I try to get away from feeling as though I can, think about my character in a calculated way and that I can figure out the equation. No, you try to bring a kind of an emotional experience to it, and hopefully that will take over until you answer all the analytical questions that you had.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks
Big
for
fan. Similar along the lines of that question. So you've written a few plays and now you've written a book. And I was wondering what led you, or maybe was it more natural for you to write plays before finishing an entire book, and what you may have liked or more, what as part of the process, what you may have liked more than the plays or writing a book, or is it just the creative process in general that you kind of enjoyed?
Yeah, I mean, I love writing from characters. I feel like I excel when writing from the first person. I can't describe sunsets well, for example. I mean, I know it's orange, but I can't think of any other adjectives besides that. So I'm not good at the kind of like third person descriptive stuff. I just can't do it well. But what I could do well is describe the kind of inner life and self, self analysis that happens with an inner monologue. So because I could do that well, I could do plays where I'm writing dialogue where people are expressing themselves and not talking about the sunset ever. And if they are talking about the sunset, they're going to say something like, "I can't stand the sunset; it makes my head itch." And when my head itches, it reminds me of my father. Or they can make it personal, because otherwise I'm at a loss. And then so a lot of the stories in here are in dialogue form or in monologue form, where I feel like I can accurately capture a voice. And oftentimes, because it's a book of humor, it's under the umbrella of a funny concept. So you have a funny concept, and then imbue it with characters, fill it with characters that seem real, not just that are funny juxtapositions for that concept, but that feel like they kind of have a life of their own.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming here. Everything. Yeah.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, good. Thanks for coming.
You've been on the award circuit a couple times. First in the underrated Squid and the Whale. Too bad not enough people are talking about that here. But I just looked up on my phone, and for The Social Network, you've been nominated for approximately 30 awards by my count, winning a couple.
31, yeah.
30. In the old days, I would imagine that you probably would just be nominated for an Oscar. You'd go to the ceremony, but the length of award season must be really exhausting and bloated. Would you have preferred to, if there were not so many awards out there, that you would have had to gone to that year?
Well, I was very uncomfortable with the whole thing because, if you're at all, a little cynical, you think this is a silly parade where people are kind of, using political tactics to describe the quantification of art, which seems inherently absurd, and it is. But every single industry has parts of it that are used to self-perpetuate. Politicians. I use it because we're here. Politicians have to go to. How many luncheons does Obama have to go to that he thinks he could be doing a million other things that are more interesting and better for the country than sit at the luncheon. What? No. So what I'm saying is, but you do it because you're part of an industry that has given you so much. I feel so blessed to be part of an industry that has given me a lot of opportunities. So you feel like, well, this is the kind of thing that perpetuates the industry. In a way, the award shows advertise the industry and everything. So I feel very lucky. You can't kind of like you can't kind of like reverse engineer trying to get an award or something. It doesn't seem to work that way. But if you're in something that people like, that's when they really try to push it. Thanks a lot. Oh, it was a bad answer. Hi.
Hi. So for me at least, I feel that writing is great for my mental health, and it helps me stay stable. As for other arts, where it's more not really you by yourself, and you have to put on a performance and stand in front of other people and kind of become something that you're not,
Right.
it can really hold a strain on you. So do you write to hold that balance in yourself, like to
Yeah.
kind of keep your life stable?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you can kind of express yourself through writing. You can express very personal things through fictional characters, and usually the reader can't exactly figure out what you're trying, what the exorcism is really. I find that to be gratifying. Although to be fair, I find acting to do the same thing. Like, because I think of it as a character, I really like playing roles where I can throw myself into it, and the character doesn't have to necessarily just be the kind of like surrogate for the audience. Where a lot of characters in movies are drawn to kind of be the placeholder for the audience. Like, if I was that guy, I would do the thing he's doing, and I hope he succeeds, because that's what I would do. But I really like to play characters that don't do that, because it's freeing, because you can throw yourself into the character and not worry that a kind of large consensus is going to agree with all your behavior. So in the movie that I just did, the Batman movie, like, to play a character like that is in a way more cathartic than playing a character who's like good or benevolent or something, because you can kind of throw yourself into it and then you're in the context of a movie that makes the character look bad, but as an actor you have to believe in what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Hi. Sorry. So you have written plays and short fiction. Do you have a preference for which one, and would you ever consider writing creative nonfiction?
Creative nonfiction. Creative nonfiction.
So a memoir,
yes.
or
yes. No, I know. I'm aware of the genre. I was just trying to. Think of. The first thought that comes to mind is that I feel like so mortified when people write about me in the news, which seems like surprising only by virtue of me putting myself out there and doing things like this, acting in movies. So but I feel so, you feel out of control, when somebody's writing about you. So I can't ever foresee writing a memoir, because I just don't want to reveal more about myself. Also, I haven't had like an interesting enough life, which is why I write, fiction, because I can, it just seems like I have a lot more going on. And but I love reading nonfiction. That's probably I love. But I just couldn't imagine doing it. What was the other thing? Oh, in terms of like plays and stuff. Yeah, I love writing. Yeah, and it all feels kind of similar to me to write this or plays. It all feels kind of similar. Exploring characters, exploring, unusual behavior, exploring things that I haven't read before that I'd like to read. About, not that I'm breaking new ground, but just I try to write things that I haven't read before that I would like to read.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Oh, hi.
Hi, thanks very much for coming.
Oh yeah, thanks for having
I
me
just
here.
finished reading your play, The Spoils. I really
right.
liked it. But I was reading reviews online. I saw a lot of reviewers were just trying to sort of force Ben, the main character, into like having a mental illness.
Right.
And I found it sort of disconcerting. It felt like a cop out.
Yeah,
Instead of
that's
like
what I
trying to
think, too.
understand the character, just push that on him. I just wanted to know what your opinion was.
Yeah, well,
about it.
thanks for saying that. I heard that as well, because I don't read the review. I heard that kind of secondhand, and I thought, that seems kind of reductive in the wrong way. There's a great quote by a friend of mine, Louis Theroux, who makes these great documentaries on BBC, if you haven't seen them. And he spent a few weeks at an institution in Ohio, and he comes away with the thesis that there are as many mental illnesses as there are people with them. And that rang true for me and the people that I know who have been diagnosed, and frankly, people who haven't been diagnosed who you suspect should be or might be. And in the play, I was trying to write a character that I knew well, based on things that I've seen. I think the idea of diagnoses, especially when they come to mental illness, we're probably going to be shifting into an area where that becomes where there's a lot more gray area. So I could imagine that character could be diagnosable, but it seems like a little easy to kind of put a label on something and then, because then there's all these set of accompanying characteristics that probably wouldn't apply. Thanks.
Hi. So my question is about your piece you wrote for The New Yorker that came out earlier this week. I was wondering if you could talk about why you decided to write that and if you've read or seen any of the response to it. And then finally, if you could talk about, if you read film criticism either of your own work or of other people's.
No, I try not to read film reviews because, you just worry that they're going to say something about you. You don't want to read that. You go into a movie thinking, you do your best, and there's a million different factors. And, I try to kind of be the best, that I hope that I'm the best judge of myself. But if anything, I would say that I know a little bit about what you're referring to. Of course, I wrote a piece in The New Yorker that was like a satire about one guy who is like a film critic, and he's reviewing a movie, but he's just kind of just getting out his personal gripes, in the review with the movie. In his own life, but kind of taking them out on the movie. No, it's just a funny idea I had. My opinion of film criticism is that it's a very important part of the dialogue we have in our culture. That it's very important that a movie comes out or any kind of creation comes out and that there's a dialogue about it. I think that's really wonderful. So obviously I have a high opinion of film criticism. I'm in the same industry as them. I was surprised that anybody would have a reaction besides seeing it as a satirical piece about an individual character and a funny premise. I would feel horrible if it hurt somebody's feelings. That's never my intention. I can't think of any joke that's funny enough to warrant hurting a person's feelings. I spend my day apologizing for things I didn't even do. So it upsets me that some people might have been offended or something. But my sense also is that, if you go into something with good intentions, which I did in this, I can't imagine it would have such a sustaining effect, or at least that's my hope. And of course, I hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. It's certainly not intended to be a comment on film criticism. I mean, I'm the last person that should do that, literally. Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
Hi. We could go there, but no one's there.
If
you're into the symmetry, you can go there. But
so I was just thinking about the way that, like, when you put a piece of writing out there, it's not quite yours anymore.
That's right.
Because people can look for what they want in it, and I know that's part of like the weird exercise in empathy. But I was just like, do you feel that anxiety, and how do you deal with that?
Well, that's the hardest thing. You act in a movie and there's like a little kind of black box in front of your face, and the effect of that black box is that it gets blown up to screens all over the world, and there's just, I feel like, a mental block in me that doesn't remember that that's what that box is doing. You're having this kind of personal, emotional experience, and then it turns into this other thing. And similarly with writing, I'm sitting on my computer thinking of what I think is funny. I'll usually ask my sister who lives with me, hey, do you think this is a funny joke? She's like, oh yeah, that's funny. So I'm blaming you if anything is offensive. And you like it and you're so excited by it, and then you're exactly right and you put it really well, which is that it doesn't become yours anymore, and that's a hard thing. But it seems to me the wrong thing to do to be governed by that, because it will be paralyzing and good stuff won't come from it, because you're going to do things that are intended to appease rather than to, not that I'm pushing any envelope, but just that, that are doing things that make me excited, not just that are, appeasing people. My sense is that all the things anybody has really liked have been written by people who have also liked them, not by people who have been trying to appease a group. So I don't want to be governed by that stuff. That said, it's impossible not to be governed by it, because I'm human and I'm aware that reviews come out and, it changes ticket sales, it changes book sales. But you just have to try to stay away from being driven primarily by that stuff. Thanks. Hi.
This might be a really stupid question, considering
I'm
your.
I'm going to give you an equally stupid answer.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. But did you always want to be an actor and a writer, or rather, what did you want to be when you were young?
I wanted to play for the Phoenix Suns. I really, really did, and it was like the kind of thing that transcended juvenile delusion. I really thought, like, no, I think it's totally possible. And then I'll tell you what happened. I stopped growing, and and I was this height, and I realized I should, do something else, and I guess I wanted to write jokes when I was young. I liked stand-up comedy, but it makes me nervous to think of myself doing it, so I never pursued it. And I always just wanted to be in funny things. But the problem is when you're trained as an actor, you're asked, even if something's funny, you're supposed to kind of play the reality of it. So, and with this book of humor, even though they're kind of mostly funny concepts and storylines, I try as much as possible to infuse it with real things and pathos, which I think is just how my mind works. Is a great, just anecdotally, it'll sum it up. Uta Hagen, the great acting teacher, she was in a play, and every night somebody asked her for the gum. That was the line. Oh, can I have some gum or something? And that would get a laugh because the context surrounding it made that line funny. And then one night, somebody asked the person asked her for the gum, and no one laughed. And at backstage, they said, Uta, why didn't they laugh at my line tonight? She goes, because you asked for a laugh, not for the gum. So the feeling behind that is you try to do things realistically and they'll become funny. But I was always just attracted to humor, making people laugh. That's what I want to do. I suppose I didn't get enough attention at whatever age that I should have gotten the attention at, or something happened in the womb, or I drank from the wrong breast. I don't know what it was. But that was always my interest. And then I also have this kind of guilt complex. So I feel like, if I'm making people laugh, then no, that's just a shallow thing. I should also imbue it with sadness. So if I act in a comedy or something, I feel like, it's a funny comedy, but I better be weeping the whole time because you can't just be funny. Then, that's not going to have any life. And it's going to look easy. So, yeah, sorry to put that on you. Yeah. I hope you can fall asleep.
Hi. So I feel like one of the great things about these forms of art is it brings people together. People can speak a similar language. So I was wondering, and my question is, for you personally, what writers or artists have you found important and inspiring throughout your life when you were age 5, age 10, age 15, age 20, age 25, age 30?
Sure. Do you mind if I start with 25 and then go to 30 and then back? I actually have my list here. I don't know. I didn't really. Our parents are really smart, sweet people, but we didn't really grow up with watching the great movies or whatever. So we just had kind of normal suburban upbringing. So kind of when I came into my own, so to speak, maybe around 15 or 16, somebody gave me Woody Allen movies, and they gave me the movies like Crimes and Misdemeanors and Husbands and Wives, and that opened my eyes to a few things. One is that art can be made for the person who's making the thing can like it more than anybody. I thought that's the best thing. He's clearly making something that he likes more than anybody. And to me, that should be the guiding principle of all creation. The person should like the thing more than anybody else. That sounds didactic. I haven't fully thought it through, so maybe just take it with something. But so that's what I loved about that. Before that, I liked kind of stand-up comedians. My favorite stand-up comic when I was growing up was this guy named Nick Swardson, who was this really funny comedian. He's not that much older than me, so I was like 12. He was probably 18, 17, something. And I just memorized his entire routine and then passed it off as my own. And the thing is, I hadn't yet learned about sex and college, so it seemed odd probably coming from me. And also what it's like to be a Christian boy in Minnesota, which is what his things were. So, but that's what I was obsessed with. That I loved the way I just loved the way people told jokes and people were surprising with humor and people I love the way he was upending cliches, which Woody Allen does so well in his books. To me, that's just so funny. You walk around, you hear kind of the same conversation over and over, which is fine. That's how people need to interact to get through the day. But when you hear somebody do something where they're kind of upending all that stuff, it tickles me so much. And I usually say, get off, I'm ticklish. Yeah, thanks for asking. Hi. Okay, so there's no one there, so we can go here.
Hi.
Yeah.
Your voice sounds better.
Yeah,
it's
thanks
getting
a lot.
better.
You also sound great.
So I would like to know what it was like to work with Aaron Sorkin, and also what kind of music you listen to.
That's actually the same answer for both. I like I like musical theater and hip hop and a band called Ween. So those are the music I like to listen to. Aaron Sorkin, he's great, because my background is in theater, so I like long scenes. Unfortunately, movies tend to never feature that kind of stuff. Normally in movies, you're standing in front of a green wall saying, hey, look, that thing's going to blow up. Let's go to this side of the room. And he writes dialogue, it's so unusual. And then he's also one of these writers, and there's maybe like half a dozen who they don't change their dialogue, so that hasn't been kind of through the ringer of, of notes to make the characters more accessible or something, so you get to really play interesting characters. I will say the writer who wrote the Batman movie is this guy Chris Terrio, and he's a phenomenal writer. Yeah, he wrote the Argo movie. Yeah, there's one fan. That's Chris's brother. No, he's such a great writer. So for the scenes in that movie, my character has, that kind of dialogue, really great long scenes. So sometimes you can find characters like that and scenes like that in a movie that, is not necessarily going to be thought of as a dialogue-driven kind of movie.
Great.
Thanks. Yeah, there's no one on that side. Yeah. Hey.
Back to me.
Yeah.
Do you have any intention or desire to move behind the camera, like either with directing or screenwriting?
I sometimes have a desire to move behind to just get out of the line of sight. But no, as I just said, Aaron Sorkin, as I said, he's like kind of one of a half dozen people who they don't meddle with. And, every screenwriter I've worked with, even the greatest ones, really, except for, maybe a few, they just change it to within an inch of its life. And my limited experience writing movie scripts, which I did when I was like 18, 19, 20, when I started writing stuff, before I started writing plays, was like that. It just was this kind of frustrating experience of rewriting things to no end for no purpose. So when I found plays, I really felt a great relief, because it's the tradition that that dialogue in plays is not they're not changed, which I think is primarily driven by the fact that most playwrights are dead. The Greeks are dead. Shakespeare is dead. They can't really ask him to make changes because he can't. So plays have taken on. So then for somebody like me, like a new playwright and stuff, you end up kind of like reaping the benefits of that. And I think of Shakespeare as my mentor. And Jesus. And I think, well, I'm just trying to find the two most appropriate kind of trajectories for myself. And they come to mind.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
We've got time for maybe 3 more.
Okay. Yeah, could I just, there's a little secret. If one of the people on that line goes to that, it'll be so much quicker. No, for the person.
Well, I'm already here, so I'm
yeah, no.
I guess my question is, when you mentioned you sort of shy away from watching movies and reading books that are similar to yours, how do you, during that time period, sort of nourish your process, I guess?
Well, I read about things I'm really interested in. Like, there's a really long story here about the conflict in Bosnia, which maybe you covered. Yeah. So don't fact check that. And then that kind of like inspires me to write something, and I think of like a kind of a comedic umbrella for that I can talk about the things I'm interested in, basketball, things as varied as basketball and Freud and even the conflict in Bosnia, where I'm not exploiting it, but I'm discussing it in a way that just is juxtaposing the kind of juvenile conversation. So I don't think that you have to necessarily, I mean, for me at least, I don't think that I necessarily have to expose myself to things that are similar in order to kind of stay in the mindset of the things I like to do. In fact, oftentimes I feel like if I expose myself to other things, if I watch basketball for 12 hours straight, then I could write something about basketball, and it will be very different than the people who are writing other short humor, because I would have wasted so much time watching basketball. That said, it doesn't really allow me to like engage with my kind of my group, and I know it's something that is a personal flaw, which is why I bring it up here in public.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Hi.
Hi. I've struggled with like OCD and anxiety like my whole life, and I've read on the internet that you've been pretty open about that. And I'm transitioning into like college, and I'm from Hawaii, so it's like a big transition. And I want to know like how you've dealt with all of these problems as you've become so successful, and like any tips to overcoming like social anxiety or OCD and stuff.
I have a pamphlet about the secrets of my success. I think, well, first of all, thank you for saying that. That's very generous of you to share. And I hope you're faring well here, and that you own a jacket.
have a couple.
If you can find avenues that are safe to express that stuff, whatever is driving that anxiety or obsessions, if you can find kind of safe avenues to relieve yourself of that stuff, it's great. Journaling, writing, that doesn't have to be published stuff. It could be something that no one ever sees, like most of the stuff I write. That stuff is really healthy. It sounds almost counterintuitive, but you could do acting classes, improv classes, and the reason I say it's counterintuitive is because it seems like, well, that would be the most exposing thing. How can I possibly do that? But the truth is that there's this kind of paradoxical effect of you putting yourself out there, and the anxiety, for some reason, I've noticed this in myself, for some reason the anxiety kind of helps, or it takes on this new life of its own. And by thinking in the mindset of a different person, even if you're doing an improv class and you're playing a banana or whatever, the anxiety for some reason will get in some ways will get transferred onto the banana. The other thing is and now this kind of sounds like sanctimonious, but I don't mean it that way, but it's like, try not to deny that stuff. It's not necessarily so harmful. A lot of times that, at least in my case, anxieties or obsessions or whatever it is, or things that seem really inefficient can lead to really wonderful things. Because they might have some purpose in your life that you haven't figured out yet. And also, therapy or group therapy or whatever, yeah. That seems odd to do this in this forum, but if you want to start now, you can. There's another mic here. Yeah. But anyway, good luck with everything, and thank you for sharing that. That's very generous of you. Thanks a lot. Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to save myself as the last question to just come up here and say, just like the end of The Social Network, you're funnier than Nick Swardson. Don't sell yourself short, sir. Come on. No, my question was, I think it was Dustin Hoffman who was recently quoted as saying that we are living in the golden age of television and the cinematic dark ages. And A, care to comment? B, would you see yourself ever in a sort of long-term television role?
Yeah, I'm not kind of in charge of enough of the industry to be able to kind of make a declarative kind of comment on trends. I exist in a pretty small and specific area, which is the things that I'm involved in. So I can't say that. My sense is just from occasionally glancing in the New York Times entertainment sections that's probably true. That movies are a little harder to make. I did 2 sequels last year, which is probably an indication that studios are doing things that have kind of predetermined audiences. Those movies happen to be really good, but if you're looking at things in a macro way, you might be able to make the conclusion that movie studios are hedging. So that's possibly true. What was the other part you had asked? If I will ever do television. Well, so Amazon optioned some of those stories that Hallie read. So I was gonna write stuff for them, and we'll see how it goes. It's in the early stages. But to me, it's not. It's not. I think probably what the most important thing with regards to this conflict is that the barriers are being broken down. I don't think it's that television is taking over for movies. I think the barriers are being broken down so that things can exist kind of in various media in a way that doesn't conflict with each other. And you could make TV shows that are not kind of base, comedies that appeal to 100 million people every Thursday. That you could make things that are more niche and more interesting, stuff you normally would find at the Angelica Film Center or whatever the equivalent is here. And so that's changing, and the stigma of being an actor on TV is probably 10 years old. So so I imagine at some point I will. I'll just end with this, which is that I watch everything on my telephone. So I'm probably the next generation of outdating movies, because I can't even watch on a real full screen TV because we don't have it. I just watch on the phone. So if that trend is happening and people are upset, I'm the culprit.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for coming in.
So copies of Jesse's book are available.